Hey everyone, so in this session we're going to be talking about what you can do with a communication studies degree. Now, as many of you might already know, communication studies happens to be one of the most popular of the liberal arts fields for a number of different reasons. One of the biggest reasons is the fact that you can actually draw a direct correlation between the communication studies field and some roles within the public and private sector. With that said, however, it's very important to remember that many of the positions of interest or many of the traditional communications positions that you might think about when you think about classic communications tend to require candidates to have extensive education, but also an extensive background or experience to go along with that. In some cases, it might be 5, 10, maybe even 15 years of experience to get some of the more traditional roles, either at the manager or consulting level as well. However, there are many entry level positions as well, or many auxiliary positions that will allow candidates to build up the necessary skills for them to potentially move into a role like this into the future. One other thing to consider is depending on the type of communications you want to do, whether it's internal communications or external communications, maybe more of a PR type of role, or if you want to get into sort of the digital marketing as well, there are opportunities for you to get some specialized training beyond your undergraduate degree. Now, some students might pursue this additional education at the master's level or even the PhD level, which might be useful for some people who want to go down the education or consulting route. But also some students will look at certificates or degree or diploma programs to supplement their undergraduate studies or even some non-traditional study opportunities as well. One of the other things to really consider is the fact that within the communications field, there are opportunities for students to kind of build their own portfolio. And what we mean by this is the fact that freelancing is a great opportunity for people who are new to the field to actually gain some exposure and to also build up some of their skills while they're studying or while they're trying to get into the field as well. This is very true for some smaller organizations who might not necessarily have the budget to hire a full communications team and hires freelancers as a result, or maybe even some local charities or some local associations who could use some pro bono work that you can, uh, you know, get your hands on as well for you to build up your portfolio in that way. And perhaps this could even lead to a position within that specific organization as well. One of the other things to consider is the fact that uh, the emergence of technology has made it so accessible for people all over the world to seek communication specialists regardless of where you're located. And so the field of digital marketing or digital communications and roles like content marketing and SEO writers or online journalists for even small publications or even specialized blogs are going to provide students with opportunities that might not have existed 5, 10, 15, or 20 years ago. A lot of students will also create their own blogs as well to not only build out their portfolio, but to also build their own personal brand, exemplify some of their knowledge, and in some cases might even be able to generate a side income for themselves as well. And so the field itself has really changed over the past 2 decades, but it's really up to the student to determine where in the communications realm they actually see themselves long term and what they can do to kind of position themselves best to be as successful as possible. A lot of students might also take this degree and go in a completely non-traditional route like the education route and actually be a teacher with this as well. So you're not necessarily confined to the communications field, although I will say the communications field itself is a fairly popular field within government and many large organizations as well. Almost every Fortune 500 company will have some sort of communications or PR division within the organization as well. And so, if this is something that interests you, there's definitely opportunities there. And many of the smaller organizations who can't afford this definitely do look to advisory or consulting firms if they need some specialized work to be done there as well. And so, this is something for students to also keep in mind as well. If it's not something that they actually want to pursue full time, there might be opportunities for them to pursue this on a part time basis while they pursue some additional studies or pursue an additional career path altogether as well. Of course, one of the other things to think about with communications is the fact that communications itself, because of the fact that it is so broad, there tends to be quite a bit of quite a bit of competition within many of the higher tier positions. As a result, many students find that they're having to do a whole lot of extra work outside of their current role to not only brand themselves within their organization, but to also build their own personal brand as well. This is a great opportunity for them to not only pursue other opportunities if it happens to come up, but it also makes them a person of interest or an expert within their particular field. Great example of this is people who are going to many conferences or work on committees and have the ability to do a lot of public speaking as though they're an expert within the field. This is a great way to not only distinguish yourself among some of the other potential applicants to some of these higher tier positions, but it's also a great way to generate trust. When you're a larger Fortune 500 company and you're looking for a communications professional to essentially handle how the public is going to receive and view your specific organization, you're more than likely going to want an expert and someone that you can trust. And so being able to build connections with people in the local community and the broader community as well is probably what's going to make people stand out and be a little bit more competitive to some of these really high tier positions that a lot of people tend to vie for as well. One of the other things to consider, some of these higher tier positions don't necessarily require a specific communications degree. In a lot of cases, this will generate a lot of graduates who happen to be interested in these roles, but there are a lot of people who come from auxiliary majors as well that are not directly tied to communication studies who happen to find themselves in these roles and kind of work their way up the ladder from there. So these are also some of the other things to consider as well. So I hope this provided you with an introduction to the communication studies field itself and provided you with some value, or at least some things to think about if this is a path that you're looking to in the future. Of course, we only touched upon a few of the things, and we really wanted to focus on communication studies as an actual field because of the fact that it is something that generates a lot of interest, and there aren't a whole lot of resources about that specifically. So as always, I hope you appreciated this segment. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, if you majored in communication studies, I'd love to hear your experiences with that in the comment section below. As always, thank you so much again for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe. And as always, we'll see you in the next one.